Ambassador G1 walked through the massive doors of the council chamber. Her shoes made soft clicking sounds on the polished floor. Above her, the ceiling stretched so high she could barely see it. 12 thrones sat in a circle, each one holding a member of the Galactic Council. These were the eldest species in the galaxy. They had ruled for 50,000 years. G1 had made this walk 117 times before. Each time, she came to ask for help. Each time, she left with nothing. Today would be no different. The Valkyrie representative spoke first. His body was made of living crystal that sparkled in the light. His voice sounded like wind chimes. The human requests an audience. Again, G1 bowed. It hurt her pride, but she did it anyway. Honored Council, I come to request access to advanced medical technology. Our people are dying from a plague that your medicine could easily cure. We have lost 2 million people in the last month alone. The council members looked at each other. Some whispered. Most looked bored. Your request is denied, the Valkyrie said. Humanity is too young to handle such technology. Perhaps in another century, you will be ready. G1 felt her jaw tighten. She forced herself to stay calm. We have followed every rule you have given us. We have paid every tax. We have stayed in our 3 systems as you commanded. What more must we do to prove ourselves? Obedience is not the same as maturity, another council member said. This one looked like a floating brain inside a jar of liquid. Humans are violent, emotional, unstable. We cannot trust you with power. The meeting ended. G1 walked back to her ship alone. Her assistant, a young man named Hyansik, was waiting for her. They said no again? He asked. They always say no. G1 replied. Far from the council station, Captain Tay-1 guided his ship through an asteroid field. The horizon's edge was a survey vessel. Its job was to map empty space and look for resources. It was boring work, but Tay-1 didn't mind. He liked the quiet. Captain, I'm picking up something strange, his navigator said. There's a structure on that asteroid. It's not natural. Tay-1 looked at the screen. The navigator was right. Metal walls jutted out from the rock. Windows dotted the surface. This was a building, but it was old. Very old. Take us closer, Tay-1 ordered. They landed on the asteroid. Tay-1 and 3 crew members put on spacesuits and walked to the building. The door was sealed, but their tools opened it easily. Inside, they found computers and files. Everything was covered in dust. Dr. Hayrin, the ship's scientist, plugged her device into one of the computers. This is incredible, she whispered. These records go back thousands of years. What do they say? Tay-1 asked. They're about the council, about how they operate. Hayrin scrolled through the data. Her eyes grew wide. Captain, this says the council has been lying to everyone. They don't help younger species. They suppress them. They keep them weak on purpose. Tay-1 felt cold. Can you prove it? All the proof is right here. Names, dates, planets. The council has done this to dozens of species. Alarms blared. The ship's pilot was shouting over the radio. Captain, 3 council enforcer ships just appeared. They're demanding we leave immediately. Tay-1 cursed. Copy all the data now. I'm trying, but they're jamming our systems, Hayrin said. A voice boomed over their suit radios. It was cold and mechanical. Human vessel, you have entered a restricted zone. Surrender all data and depart, or you will be destroyed. Tay-1 made a choice. Everyone back to the ship, now. They ran. Behind them, they heard explosions. The council ships were destroying the facility. By the time they reached their vessel, the building was gone. Nothing remained but dust. On the flight back to Earth, Tae-won sat alone in his cabin. He had managed to save a small piece of data, no more than a few files. It wasn't much, but it was something. The council had threatened them. They had destroyed evidence. That meant the data was real. That meant everything the council had told humanity was a lie. When Tae-won's report reached Earth, it caused chaos. Military leaders wanted to act. Politicians wanted to protest. But Ambassador G1 made them wait. "We are not ready," she told them. "The Council has ships in every system. They have weapons we cannot match. If we fight now, we die. Then what do we do?" Admiral Dong Hyan asked. He was the highest-ranking military officer on Earth. "We just accept this?" G1 looked at the data again. She saw the names of species that had challenged the Council. All of them were extinct now. The Council did not tolerate rebellion. "We wait," G1 said. "We watch. We learn. And we prepare." "For how long?" Dong Hyan asked. "For as long as it takes." That night, G1 couldn't sleep. She stood on her balcony and looked at the stars. Somewhere up there, the Council was laughing at humanity. They thought humans were weak. They thought humans would always obey. Let them think that, Guy-1 decided. Let them feel safe. Let them grow comfortable. Humans were good at many things. They were good at building, good at learning. But most of all, humans were good at remembering. They remembered every insult, every injustice, every death dot in one day. The Council would learn what it meant to push humanity too far, but not today. Today, Earth would stay silent. Today, Earth would bow and smile and pay its taxes. Today, Earth would play the role of the obedient child, because silent waters run deep. And humanity had patience that the Council could not imagine. Ji-won sent out a message that night. It was encrypted and hidden. It went to military bases, research facilities, and colony governors. The message was simple. Project Phoenix is approved. Begin immediately. Tell no one. Across human space, people received the message. They understood what it meant. In secret places, in hidden facilities, in the darkness between stars, humanity began to work. They would build ships the Council had never seen. They would create weapons the Council could not imagine. They would train soldiers who could fight like no other species, but they would do it in silence. They would do it in shadow, and they would do it for as long as necessary. The Council thought they had won. They thought humanity had accepted its place. They were wrong. The silence had begun. And when it ended, the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since Captain Tae-won discovered the hidden facility. 6 months since Project Phoenix began. The galaxy continued as normal. The Council ruled. Humanity obeyed. Nothing seemed to change, but on New Sol Colony, something wonderful was happening. Governor Sang-min stood on the observation deck and watched the sunrise. The sky was turning from purple to orange. Below him, the city stretched for kilometers. 2,300,000 people lived here. They had families, jobs, dreams. New Sol was humanity's youngest colony. The terraforming had taken 20 years. Every building, every road, every tree had been planted by human hands. This world was proof that humanity could create beauty even under the Council's restrictions. "Governor, the harvest reports are in," his assistant said. "We're 40% above projections." Sang-min smiled. "Send the extra food to Earth. They need it more than we do." He was proud of this place. He was proud of his people. In a galaxy that told them they were worthless, they had built paradise. That afternoon, everything changed. Commander Yu Jin was in the defense center when the alarm started. Red lights flashed. Screens showed ships appearing in orbit. Lots of ships. Identification? Yu Jin demanded. Council Enforcer Fleet, the sensor operator said. Her voice shook. 200 vessels. They're not responding to our hails. Yu Jin felt ice in her stomach. Get the governor, now. The council transmission came 5 minutes later. A Valkyrie appeared on every screen in the colony. His crystal body gleamed with authority. Attention, human colonists. This system has been granted to the Draxian Empire by council decree. You have 72 hours to evacuate. Any humans remaining after that time will be removed by force. The transmission ended. Silence filled the defense center. This is our home, someone whispered. Governor Sang-min arrived running. What's happening? Yu Jin showed him the message. Sang-min's face went pale. 72 hours? That's impossible. We have over 2 million people here. We'd need weeks to evacuate everyone. They know that. Yu Jin said quietly. Sang-min immediately contacted Ambassador G1 on Earth. She appeared on the screen, and he could see the anger in her eyes. I'll go to the council right now, G1 said. Don't do anything. Let me try to negotiate. We don't have time for negotiation, Sang-min said. But do what you can. We'll start evacuating the children first. G1 traveled to the council station faster than she had ever traveled before. She burst into the council chamber without waiting for permission. You cannot do this, she said. New Sol is a legitimate human colony. We have been there for 20 years. The Draxians need that system, the Valkyrie representative said. Your claim is irrelevant. And give us time. Give us 2 months to evacuate properly. 72 hours. 1 month, please. 72 hours. G1 tried everything. She offered money. She offered resources. She offered to give up one of humanity's other colonies in exchange. The council refused every offer. You don't understand, she finally said. Those are people. Families. Children. They are humans, the council member said. And humans exist at our discretion. You have 71 hours remaining. Back on New Sol, the evacuation was chaos. Ships landed and took off constantly. Families were torn apart as children were sent away first. People could only take what they could carry. Everything else, their homes, their possessions, their lives would be left behind. Engineer Hyansik worked without sleep. He organized the evacuation schedules, calculated the most efficient routes, and kept the spaceport running. But the math was simple and terrible. Even working perfectly, they could only evacuate 400,000 people in 72 hours. We need more ships, he told Governor Sang-min. Earth is sending everything they have, Sang-min replied. It won't be enough. Hour 65 arrived. More than 1 million people still remained on New Sol. In orbit, the Draxian fleet moved closer. Behind them, Council Enforcer ships waited. Commander Yu Jin looked at her defense platforms. New Sol had 12 of them. They were old, outdated. The Council had never let humanity build anything better. Against 200 warships, they were useless, but they were all she had. Hour 71 came. Evacuation ships were still loading when the Draxian fleet opened fire. The first shots hit an evacuation transport. It was carrying 8,000 people. The ship exploded in seconds. There were no survivors. Yu Jin didn't wait for orders. All platforms return fire. Target the Draxian command ship. The defense platforms activated. Their weapons were weak, but the crews fought with fury. They destroyed one Draxian ship, then another. They kept fighting even as their platforms were destroyed one by one. On the surface, Governor Sang-min stayed in the command center. He coordinated the remaining evacuations. He sent messages of hope. He told people where to run, where to hide. a Draxian ship targeted the command center. Sang Min saw the missile coming on his screen. He had enough time to send one last message to his daughter, who was already on an evacuation ship heading to Earth. "Live well," he wrote. "Remember us." The missile hit. The command center vanished in Fire. Commander Yu Jin's platform was the last one standing. Her crew was dead. Life support was failing. She could see the Draxian ships closing in. "This is Commander Yu Jin of New Seoul," she broadcast on all frequencies. "We are human. We will not surrender. We will not forget." Her platform fired last shot. It missed. Then the Draxian ships returned fire, and everything went dark. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. When it ended, New Seoul was silent. The cities were rubble. The farms were ash. 18,000 people had died. The survivors, those who had made it to the evacuation ships, fled into space. On Earth, people watched the broadcasts. They saw the explosions. They saw their colony die. They saw the council do nothing. Captain Tae-won stood in his quarters on the horizon's edge. His hands shook with rage. "No more," he whispered. In the hidden facilities beneath the moon, Admiral Dong Hyeon watched the same broadcasts. His officers looked at him, waiting for orders. "How long until Project Phoenix is ready?" Dong Hyeon asked. 3 months, maybe 4. His chief engineer said. "Make it 2 weeks, Dong Hyeon ordered. "We've waited long enough." Ambassador Ji-won sat alone in her office. She had failed. She had begged the council for mercy, and they had laughed. She had promised peace, and they had given her war. She opened her encrypted communicator and typed a message. It went to every human ship, station, and colony. The message was simple. Protocol Phoenix. Authorization. Ambassador Prime. The silence ends now. Across human space, hidden bases received the message. Lights turned on in facilities that had been dark for decades. Soldiers put on armor they had trained with in secret. Engineers activated ships that the council didn't know existed. For 50 years, while appearing weak, humanity had been building. For 50 years, while appearing obedient, humanity had been preparing. For 50 years, while appearing defeated, humanity had been getting angry. New Seoul had been the test. The council wanted to see if humans would fight or flee. They got their answer. Humans would fight. The council thought the matter was settled. They thought humanity would accept this loss like they had accepted every other humiliation. They were wrong. The silence was ending. And the council was about to learn that. Humanity's patience had limits. The message reached Admiral Dong Hyeon while he stood in complete darkness. Around him, he could hear machinery beginning to wake up. Lights flickered. Then they blazed. Dong Hyeon was standing inside a crater on the dark side of the moon. But this crater was fake. The entire thing was a massive hangar, hidden from council sensors for 50 years. The lights revealed hundreds of warships. They were sleek and deadly. They looked nothing like the clunky vessels the council allowed humans to build. These ships were advanced, secret, powerful. "How many are ready for combat?" Dong Hyeon asked. "All of them, sir," his second-in-command replied. "We've been ready for years. We were just waiting for the order." Dong Hyeon walked to the observation window. He could see engineers swarming over the ships. Crews were boarding. Weapons were being loaded. The fleet was coming alive. "What's our total strength?" he asked. 347 warships, 12 carriers, 46 support vessels, and every ship has the new technology. Dong Hyeon smiled. It was not a kind smile. "The council thinks they destroyed our will at New Seoul. They have no idea what they've actually done." Across human space, other facilities were activating. On Mars, underground factories opened their doors. On Europa, Training centers sent their soldiers to the surface. On the colony at Alpha Centauri, hidden weapon platforms rose from beneath the ice. Dr. Nari stood in a laboratory on Earth. She was the head of the Phoenix Project's Science Division. For 50 years, she and thousands of other scientists had worked in secret. They had studied every piece of alien technology they could find. They had improved it, enhanced it, made it better. "Run the final tests on the quantum shift drives," she ordered. Her assistant looked nervous. "Doctor, we've only tested these on small probes. We've never used them on a full-sized ship." "Then today is the day we find out if they work," Nari said. "Because in 72 hours, our fleet is going to jump directly to the Council's headquarters. And if the drives fail, we all die." The quantum shift drive was humanity's greatest achievement. Council ships used hyperspace, which was fast but predictable. You could see them coming. But quantum shift was different. It was 10 times faster and left no trace. A ship could appear anywhere without warning. Nari had invented it by combining human physics with stolen alien technology. The Council had banned this kind of research. They said it was too dangerous. The truth was, they were afraid someone would make something better than their own technology. Intelligence Director Kite sat in a dark room filled with screens. His job was to watch the Council. He had agents on every Council station. They sent him reports about fleet movements, political decisions, and military plans. "What's the Council doing?" Dong Hyen asked over a secure channel. "They're celebrating," Kite replied. "They think New Seoul proved that humans are weak. They're not preparing for war. They're planning a parade. Perfect. Keep monitoring. I want to know if anything changes." Kite switched off the communication and leaned back in his chair. He thought about all the years of preparation, all the secrets, all the lies they had told to keep the Council from discovering the truth. Every human colony had hidden bases. Every human ship had secret weapons. Every human citizen had been quietly prepared for this day. Children were taught in schools that looked normal, but included military training. Workers who appeared to be farmers were actually soldiers. Factories that built simple tools were also building warships. The Council had thought humanity was small and weak. They were half right. Humanity was small, but they had never been weak. They had just been waiting. Engineer Hyen Sik had survived the New Seoul massacre. His family had not. He had watched his home burn from an evacuation ship. Now he was on Admiral Dong Hyen's flagship, the Indomitable. He was installing the final systems on the bridge. "Will these work?" the Admiral asked, watching Hyen Sik connect neural interfaces. "The Council banned neural combat systems," Hyen Sik explained. "They said it was too dangerous to link human minds directly to ship systems. But that was a lie. They banned it because it works too well. A human pilot with neural interface is 10 times faster than any Council pilot. Show me." Hyen Sik sat in the pilot's chair and put on the interface helmet. His eyes closed. Suddenly, the entire ship responded to his thoughts. Weapons activated. Shields powered up. The ship moved as if it was an extension of his body. "With this system, one human can control an entire ship alone," Hyen Sik said. "And we can coordinate with other ships instantly. The Council's fleets fight like individuals. We'll fight like one organism." Dong Hyen was impressed. "How many pilots do we have trained on these systems?" "Every single pilot in the fleet, sir. We've been training them since they were children." The Council had no idea. For 50 years, they had thought humanity was following their rules, building simple ships, using old technology, staying weak and afraid. They were wrong about everything. Captain Taewon stood on the bridge of his ship, the Horizon's Edge. His vessel had been upgraded with all the new Phoenix technology. It looked the same on the outside, but inside it was completely different. Faster, stronger, deadlier. "Captain, we're receiving fleet coordination data," his communications officer said. "We're assigned to Battle Group 7. We jump in 36 hours. Tae-Won looked at the countdown timer on his screen. In 36 hours, the entire human fleet would jump to the Council headquarters at Meridian Prime. It would be the largest military operation in human history. "Are you scared?" his navigator asked. "Terrified," Tae-Won admitted. "But I'm more angry than scared. They killed 18,000 people at New Seoul. They've been crushing us for 100 years. Someone has to make them stop. What if we lose? Then we die fighting," Tae-Won said. "But we won't lose. They're not ready for us. They don't know what we've become." Ambassador Ji-won was on the Indomitable with Admiral Dong Hyan. She would broadcast to the Council during the battle. She had spent 100 years being diplomatic, being patient, being kind. That was over now. "Are you sure about this?" Dong Hyan asked her. "Once we jump to Meridian Prime, there's no going back. We'll be at war with the entire Council." "They're already at war with us," Yi-won said. "They just didn't tell us. New Seoul was proof. We're not citizens to them. We're not even people. We're just insects they can crush whenever they want. What will you say to them?" Ji-won looked at her speech notes. She had written and rewritten them 100 times. Finally, she had settled on the truth. Simple and direct. "I'm going to tell them that the silence is over, and that humanity remembers everything." The final 36 hours passed quickly. Across human space, families said goodbye. Soldiers boarded ships. Engineers made last-minute adjustments. Everyone knew this was the moment that would define humanity's future. Either they would win and be free, or they would lose and be extinct. There was no middle ground. On Earth, people gathered in streets and homes to watch. Every screen showed the same countdown. When it reached 0, the fleet would jump. Dr. Nari watched from her laboratory. The quantum shift drives were ready. All the calculations were complete. The ships would emerge directly at Meridian Prime, bypassing all Council defenses. If the drives worked, if they didn't, the ships would be torn apart in transit. Hundreds of thousands of people would die instantly. 10 minutes to jump, the countdown announced. Dong Hyan stood on the bridge of the Indomitable. His crew was ready. His ships were ready. His people were ready. All ships. This is Admiral Dong Hyan. In 10 minutes, we jump to Meridian Prime. The Council thinks we're weak. They think we're afraid. They're about to learn the truth. Humanity bows to no one. Not today. Not ever. For New Seoul. For New Seoul. 300,000 voices replied across the fleet. The countdown continued. 5 minutes. 3 minutes. 1 minute. All ships prepare to jump. The space around Earth began to shimmer. Energy built up around each ship. The quantum shift drives activated. And then, in a flash of light, the entire human fleet vanished. They reappeared at Meridian Prime, directly in front of the Council's headquarters. The Council's defense fleet was unprepared. They had been patrolling slowly, expecting nothing. They were about to get everything. The Council defense fleet had over 1,000 ships. They surrounded Meridian Prime in perfect formations. Their commanders were relaxed. They had been on patrol duty for decades without seeing combat. This was the safest posting in the galaxy. Then the human fleet appeared. One moment, space was empty. The next, 300 human warships materialized directly in front of them. There was no warning, no hyperspace signature, no time to prepare. The Council ships didn't even have their shields up. All ships, weapons free, Admiral Dong Hyan ordered calmly. Target their command vessels first. The human fleet opened fire. Council ships began exploding before they could react. The human weapons were different from anything the galaxy had seen. They fired faster, hit harder. Didn't miss. Captain Tay-1 sat in his pilot chair with the neural interface active. He could feel his ship like it was his own body. He thought about moving left, and the ship moved left. He thought about firing, and weapons fired. His squadron targeted a council cruiser. It was 3 times larger than any human ship. The council had always used size to intimidate. But size meant nothing against speed. Tay-1's squadron jumped in, fired, and jumped out in less than 3 seconds. The council cruiser exploded. They had hit it 50 times before it could even turn its weapons. "This is incredible," his navigator said. "We're so much faster than them." "That's because we built these ships to fight," Tay-1 replied. "They built their ships to look impressive. There's a difference." Across the battlefield, the pattern repeated. Human ships appeared, destroyed their targets, and vanished before the council could respond. The null field shields made the human ships nearly invulnerable. Council weapons hit them, but did no damage. The council fleet outnumbered the humans 3 to 1. It didn't matter. They were fighting with old tactics against new technology. It was like bringing swords to a gunfight. Enforcer Prime Caltharin commanded the council defense fleet from his flagship, the Eternal Glory. He watched his ships dying on every screen. Nothing made sense. How did humans have this technology? Where did these ships come from? "All ships form defensive positions around Meridian Prime," he ordered. "We need to protect the council." But his ships couldn't form positions. They were being destroyed too quickly. Every time a council ship tried to move, human vessels appeared and killed it. "This is impossible," Caltharon's tactical officer said. "They're jumping in and out faster than we can track. Our targeting systems can't lock on." "Then fire everything," Caltharin shouted. "Saturate the space with weapons. They have to be hit eventually." The council ships fired wildly. Thousands of shots filled the space around Meridian Prime. Most hit nothing. A few hit human ships, but the shields absorbed the damage. Dr. Hayrin was aboard the Indomitable in the intelligence section. Her job was to hack into council communications. She had spent years studying their systems. She knew their security better than they did. "I'm in their network," she announced. "Uploading the data now." The data she uploaded was everything Intelligence Director Kite had collected over 50 years. Proof of the Council's crimes. Evidence of species they had destroyed. Records of resources they had stolen. Every Council ship received the data. Every Council station received it. Every planet in the galaxy received it. The younger species in the Council saw the truth for the first time. Their leaders had been lying to them for thousands of years. The Council wasn't protecting them. It was using them. On the Draxian ships, the ones that had destroyed New Sol, the crews began to hesitate. They read the data. They saw that their leaders had lied about humans being dangerous. New Sol had been a test. The Council had wanted to see if humans would fight back. Some Draxian ships stopped fighting. Their captains refused to follow orders. Why should they die protecting a council that had manipulated them? "Their fleet is breaking apart," Taiwan reported to Admiral Dong Hain. "Some ships are retreating. Others are just floating there. Continue the attack," Dong Hain ordered. "But only fire on ships that fire at us. Give the others a chance to surrender." Ambassador G1 activated the broadcast system. Her face appeared on every screen in the galaxy. Council leaders saw her. Billions of civilians saw her. Everyone stopped to listen. "For 100 years, you treated us like children," she said. Her voice was calm, but hard as steel. "You taxed our work. You restricted our growth. You stole our discoveries. And when we obeyed, You called us weak. On Meridian Prime, the council members watched from their chamber. They looked terrified. You told us we were too violent to be trusted, G1 continued. Too emotional. Too unstable. But the truth is, you were afraid. Afraid that we would become what we are right now. Afraid that we would stop a bang. She paused. Let her words sink in. You murdered 18,000 of our people at New Sol. You called it enforcement. We call it murder. And we will never forget. The council chamber filled with panicked voices. They were arguing about what to do. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight to the end. This is not a conquest, G1 said. This is justice. You will answer for New Sol. You will answer for every species you have crushed. And you will learn that humanity's greatest strength was never our weapons. It was our memory. We forget nothing. Enforcer Prime Caltherin made a desperate decision. He would ram his flagship into the human command ship. A suicide attack. If he could kill their admiral, maybe the humans would fall apart. All power to engines, he ordered. Target that ship. The Eternal Glory turned and accelerated toward the Indomitable. It was massive and fast. A collision would destroy both ships. Captain Tay-1 saw it happening. Admiral, the Council flagship is on a collision course with you. I see it, Dong Hyan replied calmly. Tay-1, can you stop it? On my way. Tay-1's ship jumped directly in front of the Eternal Glory. He fired everything he had at the flagship's engines. The Council ship's shields held, but the engines were damaged. The ship began to slow. Surrender. Tay-1 broadcast to Caltherin. You've lost. There's no point in dying. I will never surrender to humans, Caltherin replied. Then you'll die like a fool instead of living like a warrior, Tay-1 said. He fired again. This time, he targeted the bridge. The Eternal Glory's command section exploded. The ship went dark and began to drift. Caltherin was dead. The Council fleet saw their leader die. Their morale broke completely. Ships began surrendering by the dozen. Some fled into hyperspace. Others just shut down their weapons and waited. 6 hours after the battle began, it was over. The human fleet surrounded Meridian Prime. Over 800 Council ships had been destroyed. The rest had surrendered. Human casualties were minimal. 47 ships damaged. 3 destroyed. Less than 2,000 dead. Admiral Dong Hyan opened a channel to Meridian Prime. Galactic Council, you will surrender immediately. You will stand trial for your crimes. Or we will destroy your station and everything on it. You have 1 hour to decide. The Council members gathered in their chamber. For 50,000 years, they had ruled the galaxy. They had never lost a battle. They had never been challenged. Now they were defeated by a species they had called weak. The Velkari representative stood slowly. His crystal body looked dull and cracked. We surrender, he said quietly. The transmission went out across the galaxy. The mighty Galactic Council had fallen. The youngest species in the galaxy had defeated the oldest. On Earth, people celebrated in the streets. They cried. They laughed. They hugged strangers. After 100 years of oppression, they were finally free. In the fleet, soldiers were more quiet. They had won, but the cost was real. People had died. Ships had been destroyed. War was never completely glorious, even in victory. Admiral Dong Hyan sat in his command chair and closed his eyes. He was exhausted, but there was still work to do. Open a channel to Intelligence Director Kite. He ordered. T-Tay appeared on the screen. He looked worried. Admiral, we have a problem. I've been going through the Council's archives. New Sol wasn't random. It was planned. What do you mean? The Council has done this before. 17 times. They pick a young species, give them a colony, let them build and grow. Then they take it away and watch what happens. Most species surrender and accept it. Those species are allowed to survive as servants. And the species that fight back? Dong Hyan asked. They're destroyed completely, wiped out, erased from history. Ki Tae pulled up files on his screen. We're the 18th species they've tested. We're the first to win. Dong Hyan felt cold. The council hadn't just been cruel. They had been experimenting on civilizations like they were laboratory animals. Make copies of all those files, Dong Hyan ordered. Every species in the galaxy needs to see this. As news spread, the galaxy changed. Species that had been loyal to the council turned against them. Revolutions started on dozens of worlds. The old order was collapsing, and at the center of it all, humanity stood ready. Not as conquerors, not as tyrants, but as the species that had said no and survived. The silence had ended, and nothing would ever be the same. 6 months after the Battle of Meridian Prime, the galaxy looked completely different. The old council chamber still stood, but now it served a new purpose. It was a courtroom. Ambassador G1 sat in the seat that once belonged to the council speaker. She was now first speaker of the reformed Galactic Assembly. She didn't want the job, but someone had to do it, and the other species had voted for her. They trusted humanity because humanity had freed them. Today was the trial. 12 former council members sat in chains where their thrones used to be. They looked small now, weak. It was strange how quickly power could disappear. Morthax, the Velkari who had denied humanity's medical requests so many times, stared at the floor. His crystal body was dim and cracked. He looked old. You are charged with crimes against civilization, G1 said. Her voice echoed in the chamber. For thousands of years, you suppressed younger species. You stole their resources. You crushed their potential. And when they resisted, you destroyed them completely. We maintained order, Morthax said quietly. Without us, the galaxy would have been chaos. You maintained your power, G1 replied. There's a difference. The evidence was presented. Intelligence Director Ki Tae had found everything in the Council's own archives. They had kept detailed records of their crimes. Lists of species destroyed. Planets stripped of resources. Tests like the one at New Sol. 17 civilizations before humanity had been tested. 17 had fought back. 17 had been wiped out. Every ship destroyed. Every colony burned. Every record erased as if they had never existed. You didn't just kill them, Dr. He-Rin testified. You erased them from history, so no one would know what you had done, so no one would remember them. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Representatives from hundreds of species came to testify. They told stories of oppression, of families destroyed, of dreams crushed. The council had hurt everyone. Finally, it was time for the verdict. You are guilty, G1 announced. The evidence is overwhelming. You have committed crimes that cannot be forgiven. The former council members waited for their death sentence. In the old days, they would have executed anyone who challenged them. Now they expected the same treatment. However, G1 continued, humanity does not believe in execution for political crimes. You will not die. Instead, you will work. You will spend the rest of your lives rebuilding what you destroyed. Morthax looked up in surprise. You're not going to kill us? Death is easy, G1 said. Living with what you've done is harder. You will help restore the civilizations you erased. You will work until your bodies fail. And every day, you will remember what you did. Some people thought G1 was being too kind. Admiral Dong Hyan had argued for harsher punishment. But G1 had been firm. Humanity would not become what the Council had been. We win by being better, she had told him, not by being crueler. While the trial proceeded, Dr. Nari led a different effort, the Technology Sharing Initiative. She and her team were teaching other species everything humanity had learned. The Council kept everyone weak by controlling technology, Nari explained to a classroom of alien scientists. They gave you just enough to survive, but not enough to be free. That ends now. She showed them the quantum shift drives, the null field shields, the neural combat systems, everything that had made humanity's victory possible. But won't this make everyone as powerful as you? A young Draxian scientist asked. Aren't you afraid we'll use it against you? Fear is what the Council used to control people, Nari replied. We won't make that mistake. Yes, you might use this technology against us someday. But we believe the galaxy is better when everyone is strong, not when everyone is weak. The Draxians were especially important to this process. Their fleet had destroyed New Sol, but Nari and the other humans didn't hate all Draxians. They understood that the Draxian crews had been following orders from leaders who had been manipulated by the Council. We're sorry, the Draxian ambassador said during a meeting with Guy 1. Our people killed your people. We understand if you can never forgive us. Your leaders killed our people, G1 corrected. Not you. We've read the Council's files. They manipulated your government. They lied to you about us being dangerous. You were victims too. Still, we pulled the triggers. Yes, and that's something your people will have to live with. But we won't hold an entire civilization responsible for their leaders' choices. That would make us no better than the Council. Work began on rebuilding New Sol. Governor Sangmin's daughter, Minna, led the effort. She was only 19 years old, but she had inherited her father's determination. This will be a memorial and a city, she announced. We'll remember what was lost, but we'll also celebrate what we can build together. Species from across the galaxy sent workers to help. Draxians worked alongside humans. Former Council species worked to repair the damage their leaders had caused. The construction became a symbol of the new galaxy dot. At the center of the new city, they built a monument. It listed all 18,000 names of those who had died. Above the names, they carved Governor Sangmin's last words, "Live well. Remember us." Captain Tay 1 visited the memorial when it was completed. He stood in front of the wall of names and read them slowly. He had been in orbit during the attack. He had watched people die and been unable to help. We remember, he said quietly. All of you. We remember. A young child approached him. She was the daughter of survivors. Are you one of the people who fought the Council? She asked. Yes, Tae-Won said. My teacher says you were brave. Tae-Won shook his head. We were angry. There's a difference. Brave is what the people here were. They faced death to save others. That's true courage. The Galactic Assembly was very different from the old Council. Instead of 12 ruling species, there were representatives from everyone. Humans had only one vote, the same as every other species. Some humans thought this was unfair. We won the war, they argued. We should have more power. But G1 refused. We didn't fight to rule. We fought to be free. If we take power over others, we become what we defeated. A new delegate named Sua represented a species called the Virine. They had been suppressed by the Council for 3,000 years. They were brilliant engineers, but the Council had never let them build anything advanced. Your people gave us hope, Sua told G1. We thought resistance was impossible. You showed us it wasn't. What will your people do now? G1 asked. Build, create, explore, everything the Council never let us do. Sua smiled. We have 3,000 years of ideas we couldn't try. Now we can try them all. This was happening across the galaxy. Species that had been held back were exploding with innovation. New technologies, new art, new ideas. The galaxy was becoming more creative and diverse than it had been in 50,000 years. But there were problems, too. Some species wanted revenge. They wanted to punish everyone who had supported the Council. G1 had to work hard to prevent new wars from starting. Revenge doesn't rebuild, she told the Assembly. Revenge just creates more pain. We have to be better. Engineer Hyan Sik, who had survived New Sol, worked on a different project. He was helping to restore the 17 civilizations that the Council had destroyed. Using the Council's own records, they were rebuilding the lost species history. We can't bring them back, Hyan Sik explained, but we can make sure they're remembered. Their art, their music, their ideas, all of it will be preserved and shared. It was slow work, but it mattered. These civilizations had been erased to hide the Council's crimes. Now they would be remembered forever. 1 year after the battle, there was a ceremony at Meridian Prime. Representatives from every species in the galaxy gathered. They were there to dedicate a new monument. The monument was simple. A black wall with writing in every known language. The message was the same in each language. They tried to silence us. They tried to make us forget. They failed. We are here. We remember. Ambassador G1 gave a speech. She thought about all the years of bowing to the Council, all the times she had swallowed her pride and accepted their insults, all the patience and planning that had led to this moment. The Council thought humanity's silence meant weakness, she said. They were wrong. Our silence was strategy. Our patience was preparation. Our compliance was careful observation. She looked at the crowd, humans and aliens together, former enemies now working as equals. We could have become conquerors, G1 continued. We had the power, we had the technology, we had the anger, but we chose something harder. We chose to build instead of destroy, to teach instead of dominate, to share power instead of hoard it. Admiral Donghayan stood in the crowd. He had argued for military rule after the victory. He had been wrong, and he knew it now. G1's way was better. The galaxy is not perfect now, G1 said. There is still conflict, still injustice, still pain, but it's better than it was. And it will keep getting better because we're all working together. She paused and looked at the monument. The Council tried to teach us that power comes from domination, from making others weak so you can stay strong. But we've learned a different lesson. Real power comes from lifting others up, from sharing instead of hoarding, from building instead of destroying. The crowd was silent, listening. Humanity stayed silent for 100 years. G1 finished. Not because we were weak, not because we were afraid, but because we were learning. And when we finally spoke, the galaxy listened. Now we speak together, all of us as equals, and our voices will never be silenced again. The ceremony ended. People began to leave, returning to their ships and their homes. The galaxy was changing. It would take decades, maybe centuries, to heal all the damage the Council had done. But the work had begun. Captain Tae-1 stood with Dr. Hae-Rin, looking at the stars. Do you think we did the right thing? He asked. Yes, Hae-Rin said. We could have destroyed them. Instead, we freed them. That's the difference between justice and revenge. It's harder this way. Everything worth doing is hard. On Earth, people celebrated the anniversary of the victory. But they also remembered the cost. 18,000 dead at New Sol. 2,000 dead in the battle. Families broken. Lives changed forever. Governor Sang-min's daughter, stood at her father's grave. We won, Dad, she said quietly. And we did it your way. We stayed human even when it would have been easier to become monsters. The galaxy moved forward. New ships explored unknown space. New colonies were founded on worlds the Council had kept restricted. New technologies emerged from species that finally had freedom to create. And through it all, humanity maintained its role, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as the species that had proven silence could be strength, patience could be power, and mercy could be might. The Council had tried to crush humanity. Instead, they had taught humanity exactly what kind of civilization they didn't want to become. And that lesson had changed everything. The silence had ended. The galaxy would never forget what happened when it did.